Claire. Welcome to my project. So my Prezi is on graphic novels. This is the first time I'm doing a screen recording, so please bear with me. I hope everything works out well, and I hope you enjoy my presentation. Okay, so the question I decided to focus on for this project is, are graphic novels considered literature? So looking up the web definition of graphic novels, it's defined as being written and illustrated in comic book style in which an extended narrative is presented as a continuous sequence of pictorial images printed in color or black and white and arranged panel to panel with text given in captions and dialogue, usually enclosed in balloons. So when people think of graphic novels, they tend to think of comics, manga, kind of like little kid picture book type of deal. So it comes into question a lot whether these graphic novels are considered literature because people don't think it is, and people think it isn't. So I'm going to answer this question, but in order to do that, we must first look at what makes something literature, and then from there explore how those concepts are presented in two graphic novels. Specifically, we're going to look at Nimona and Miss Marvel, which we read both of those in class. So the first thing we're going to do is, what is literature? So if we look at the basic definition of literature, it states it is a written works that is considered as an art form or any single writing deemed to have artistic or intellectual value. Okay, so for what is literature, I am going to go to Jonathan Culler and his book Literature Theory, A Very Short Introduction. In that book, he analyzes a lot of theories that what makes something literature. I chose one theory from the book to focus on in this project because there's so many. We're just going to look at one, and I'm going to compare that theory to the two books and see how they have that theory in their story. So, Culler's definition I chose. At one point in his argument, Culler claims that viewing literature as an aesthetic object could make us better people, as it is linked to a certain idea of the subject, to what theorists have come to call the liberal subject, the individual defined not by a social situation and interest, but by an individual subjectivity, rationality, and morality, conceived as essentially free of social determinants. So he then states that with this thinking, literature encourages consideration of complexities without rush to judgment, engaging the mind in ethical issues, inducing readers to examine conduct, including their own, as an outsider or as a reader of the novels would. It promotes disinterestedness, teaches sensitivity and fine discriminations, produces identifications with men and women of other conditions, thus promoting fellow feeling. So in this one theory, Culler is saying that literature should make the reader think of ethical issues, examine themselves, and kind of identify with other people, kind of feel by fellow feeling, he's saying feel empathy for others. So in order for something to be literature, it has to bring out these characteristics, show them to the reader, and basically, oh god, I'm losing my train of thought. Sorry. But basically, yeah, show these theories in the book and make the reader think about this. So we're gonna move to the first book. So we're gonna examine Nimona. So looking at the first graphic novel, Nimona, by Noelle Stevenson, it revolves around a shape-shifting character of the same name who serves as a sidekick to the villainous Lord Ballister Blackheart. It was presented, when you first look at this book, it's presented in the typical good versus evil concept, since Blackheart is the villain and Golden Loin is the hero. However, when you first read the book, you think of it, okay, so comic, it looks like a comic book, good versus evil. But as you read the story, you come to realize that the book actually deals with the issue of morality and what the reader can deem as right or wrong. Okay, so morality. So morality is defined as principles concerning the distinction between right and wrong or good and bad behavior. So when it comes to Nimona, this concept is examined logically between the characters of Ballister, the villain, and Golden Loin, the hero. When the novel begins, the reader assumes that the heroes are morally just while the villains are morally wrong. However, as the story goes on, we can see this isn't completely true. As seen through Ballister, he refuses to kill anyone unless absolutely necessary, and also hates to harm anyone at all, even accidental, which we kind of see when he in the book when he finds out that the potion he made to make people sick actually killed 2 people. He feels very guilty about that, which goes against the typical Disney kind of like villain. Like a villain shouldn't care. A villain wants to kill people or do this, but Ballister's different, and readers are able to see that right in the beginning. So in the first few pages of the novel, he claims when Nimona wants to makes her plan and wants to like kill people, he says, as seen in this panel right here on page 4, no, that's not how I work. You can't just go around murdering people. There are rules, Nimona. So Nimona questions him, saying, "What do you mean there are rules? Why would you follow the rules? Isn't that the whole point of being a villain, that you don't have to follow the rules?" So Ballister is showing that he has moral rules that he believes in, which is unlike a lot of villains, typical villains at least, you would see in novels or movies. Usually they don't care, they want to cause destruction, but Ballister doesn't really want to do that. He's not like that. So that shows to the reader that he's more than what we think he is. He's not the typical villain. There's something else going on there. He's not completely bad. So if we keep looking at it, Golden Loin, on the contrary, is not the hero that he seems to be. He's willing to do dirty things to win and achieve what he wants, which includes blowing off Ballister's arm in like that jousting contest, but he states it was an accident. So again, the theme of morality comes to question even with Golden Loin, who again is supposed to be seen as the hero, the good guy, the moral right and wrong. He's supposed to be for the right. He's actually in a little bit of a haze with morality, with his own morality, as he believes that he's supposed to be the hero. In the story, he believed he was supposed to be the hero. As look down here on page 95, he says, Ballister says, "You blew up my arm because you couldn't stand that. I was better than you." And Golden says, "You were never better than me." So he's acknowledging that, yes, I should be the hero because that's just who I am. I should be the hero. You're the villain. So when he knew that his weapon was fixed to blow off Ballister's arm, and instead of doing what morally is right and like not doing it, he went along with it. Even though he later on does regret doing that, he did go along with it because he believed that, oh, I should be the hero and Ballister should be the villain. And again, that's morally not right. That shows that Golden Loin, even though he's the hero, his morals aren't exactly perfect. He's not with the right. He's kind of he's in the haze. He did things that a hero wouldn't do. So that's what the book does with morality with this. So, connection to colors definition. So this theme connects the colors theory of literature as readers come to engage their mind in the ethical issues through the novel subject of morality. So basically, in other words, the book shows that the world isn't simply black and white. So just because Ballister was a villain doesn't mean he was always morally wrong. Just because Golden Loin was the hero doesn't mean he was morally right. This book shows it encourages its reader to look beyond the stereotypical idea and grasp a broader understanding of what it truly means to truly be good. Because Ballister, throughout the novel, he really wasn't evil. He really the evil thing he did was maybe make a few people sick in order to expose the evil by the institution. So the institution is, even though the institution, which is supposed to be of good and bad, it's the institution's looked at as a morally right, like in place, but really they're doing morally wrong stuff. And Ballister, who's the villain, is actually going against them. So in a sense, he's a villain to the institution, but morally he's doing the right thing by trying to expose what they're doing. So this reading basically makes the reader think about their own ethical judgment, and it makes them think about their own ethical judgment and basically how not everything is what it seems. You got to look at things with the bigger picture. There's more to it than what you think. And especially at this age, adolescents who are probably reading this book who are 11, 12, 13, at that age, you start getting out of that black and white concept and you start seeing the world you start noticing these things, that not, every bad guy or villain, is evil. There's more to it than what you originally thought when you were 5 years old. So this text is a good way of introducing that idea two young adolescents as they start going through this period of seeing the world in this different way. Okay, so another connection to color's definition, which I saw. So in his argument, he says that the reader identify from reading a book, and he identifies with men and women of other conditions, thus promoting fellow feeling, which I stated in before. Fellow feeling is essentially empathy. So color was talking about the reader's supposed to feel, can identify with other men and women and produce empathy. But I actually noticed this. I want to mention this. I noticed this in the book. I noticed a character in the book was actually going along with this idea color stated. Even though color was talking about the reader, I noticed this theory going on in a character, specifically Ballister. So Ballister, and there's my phone going off. Sorry about that. We're just gonna let that go. So Ballister is outcasted as a villain by the institution, and he connects with Nimona on the basis that she is also a reject and forms a close relationship with her. Okay, sorry about that. That was my house phone. But yeah, so he connects with Nimona on the basis that she is also a reject because he's identified as a villain. He's outcasted as a villain. So being a villain, he connects with Nimona because she is also an outcast because of her shape-shifting, and she didn't really have a place to stay. So I noticed that he kind of formed an identification with her and had empathy for her because she was an outcast. Even so, this relationship that they form, he tries, as shown down here on page 239, he says, "You are not a monster." He believes and he knows that she's not who she thinks she is. He's seeing beyond it. He's like, "No, you're not," because like other people judged him, he's not exactly what you would think either. So in the end of the novel, he tries to save her, but he can't. And even when he's in the hospital and the nurse says to him, "Oh, you were attacked by that monster," he still defends her. He's like, don't call her that. She's not a monster." So he's still defending her, showing that, because he identifies with her. He knows how people, what people see and who you truly are. That's something that this book is dealing with. It's that idea. And Ballister is able to see beyond Nimona, beyond what other people see her as a monster. He's able to see that she does, even though her moral judgment was kind of a little hazy in the beginning of the book, she learns through him that the moral right and wrong. And he starts seeing that change in her, and that's why he is with her and he identifies with her, because he knows that feeling. Okay, hopefully that all went good. So let's move on to the next one. So we're going to examine Miss Marvel. So in the next graphic novel, Miss Marvel by Sana Amanat, I don't know if I'm saying that name right, it tells the story of a Muslim American Desi girl who gains the powers of the iconic Captain Marvel. Throughout the story, she learns how to control her newfound powers while mainly struggling with an identity crisis as she questions whether she is good enough to be a superhero. So before we get into this, I found a video online of Sana Amanat, I don't think I'm saying her name right, who is the co-creator of Miss Marvel, talking about, she's a Muslim American, and in this TED Talk video, which is 14 minutes long, I'm not going to put you through that. We're just going to look at a short piece where she talks about this, the comic book. She just talks about basically the labels that, looking at someone, through their ethnicity or who they are, we label them. And that's kind of what this Miss Marvel kind of talks about. The issue is that this label of who you are based on, because of what you look like. So we're going to watch just a minute of this video really quick. I'm just going to skip forward on it. Hopefully this works. There we go. I'm just going to skip here, and I'll play it for a minute for you, and then we'll get back to the discussion.
Kamala Khan is so much larger than just a pop culture icon. She came together in response to that global subconscious desire for representation, for those Muslim American bacon sniffing, short, nerdy girls like me, and for anyone else, regardless of their gender, sexuality, race, religion, who just feel like misfits themselves. In the actual Ms. Marvel series, Kamala Khan is just a girl trying to fit in. She's constantly negotiating, renegotiating who she is, and all of the rules that come with it. Where does she belong? She has no idea. She's still figuring out that journey to her authentic self. But all she knows is that she does not want to be limited by the labels imposed upon her. So really, Kamala Khan's story is everyone's. It's about confronting the labels you've been assigned and sculpting them and redefining them until you figure out who you truly are and what you actually believe. One of my favorite models.
Okay, so that's all I'm going to show with that. So, no, I do not want to go there. Go back, go back. Okay, there we go. Okay, so yeah, so in that video, that's what she's talking about. So she talks about that's why they made Kamala Khan, and basically what she goes through is these labels, of her being a Muslim and not fitting into the American ideal of a superhero. This is why this character, because they want to show others. Basically, the main theme in this graphic novel is identity. So let me just get into that before I start rambling. Okay, so examining Miss Marvel identity. So yeah, the main theme is identity. So the idea of identity, before Kamala even gets her powers, she really is struggling with this identity. With her Pakistani identity, which is often in conflict with her American one. She expresses her desire to be like every other American teenager. So right in the beginning, you see her struggling between her Pakistani and Muslim identity and the American one, and how people kind of see her. So, for example, on page 19, she put, "My chances of becoming an intergalactic superhero are even slimmer than my chances of becoming blonde and popular." And she says on page 23, you see where she questions. She says, "Why am I the only one who gets signed out of health class? Why do I have to bring parkours to school for lunch?" I don't know if I said that right. "Why am I stuck with the weird holidays? Everyone else gets to be normal. Why can't I?" So she is already struggling with her identity right before she even gets her powers, right in the beginning with that. So obviously when she gets these powers, that's just going to make the conflict a lot more confusing for her. Oh, there's my house phone again. Okay, hang on one moment, Professor Sinclair, I'm so sorry. My dad keeps calling. Okay, sorry about that. My dad keeps calling my house. This is what I get for commuting. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so back to where we were. So yeah, so she struggles with this identity, and in the comics, she goes to a party. She sneaks out because she wants to be like a normal American girl. However, when she's at this party, I believe her friend, I think her name was Zoe, insulted her, and Kamala kind of leaves because she gets upset about that. And as she's leaving, Kamala meets Captain Marvel in this lucid like fantasy. After she passes out from this fog, she meets Captain Marvel. And when she meets her, she kind of explains, how she's feeling, which you can see on page 32 over here. She says, "But that's not why I snuck out. It's not that I think Ami and Abu are dumb. It's just I grew up here. I'm from Jersey City, not Kahachi. I don't know how to say that. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know who I'm supposed to be. Who do you want to be? Right now, I want to be beautiful and awesome and butt kicking and less complicated. I want to be you." So it shows so Kamala's already we're showing that, these people are identifying her as this weird girl, but she's saying, "I grew up here. I'm from New Jersey, but because of who my ethnicity, my religion. People are seeing me, differently. And originally when she says this, when she's talking to Captain Marvel, she's saying when she says she wants to be like Captain Marvel, she wants to be this beautiful blonde, white skin, popular girl. However, this ends up not backfiring, but Kamala, it got miscommunicated. Kamala ends up wanting to be like her, ends up gaining the powers of Captain Marvel, ironically. So, upon gaining the powers, Kamala tries to assimilate into the American ideal of a superhero and shapeshifts into Carol Danvers, who is the original Captain Marvel. So, as you can see down here on page 52, when she got the powers, she came out and she looked like her. But after saving the girl Zoe, she realizes that looking the part doesn't make her feel any better about herself. In fact, she feels worse. So on page 52, she says, "But being someone else isn't liberating, it's exhausting. I always thought that if I had amazing hair, if I could pull off great boots, if I could fly, that would make me feel strong, that would make me feel happy. But the hair gets in my face, the books pinch, and the leotard is giving me an epic wedgie." So she's realizing that, okay, I look the part now. I fit the American ideal of beauty, but I'm still not happy. Why am I not happy? So she questions this throughout the rest of the book. She's wondering, she's struggling with this identification now, now with her superpowers, who she's supposed to look like, herself. It's a big mess. So as the rest of the story goes on, Kamala continues to struggle with her identity, but after speaking with her friend Bruno and her father, she realizes that in order to be the best version of Kamala, she needs to be herself and follow her own thinking. So after grasping this, she takes the name of Miss Marvel for herself and creates a costume that represents her Pakistani and American identity. So on page 120, when she has that talk with her father, the father said, "That's why we gave you your name. You don't have to be someone else to impress anybody. You are perfect just the way you are." So she realizes that she does not have to be anybody else but herself in order to be a good superhero, she has to be herself. So on page 125, which is the end of the graphic novel, she realizes, she says, "I tell myself I can do this. I tell myself I'm exactly where I was meant to be. It's like that Persian guy Rumi said, wherever you are, we'll circle on a map for you." So she realizes that this is who I am. This is what I'm supposed to be. I do not have to look like anyone else. I don't have to be anybody else but myself. Be me, myself is enough. I can do this. So the connection to color's definition. So the story of Kamala Khan connects to color's definition of literature as it makes the reader, like that of Nimona, engage adolescents in their minds of ethical issues. Primarily, though, the story of Miss Marvel teaches fine discriminations and produces identifications with men and women of other conditions, as I stated with Nimona before. So, in other words, this comic exhibits that just because Kamala didn't fit into the ideal superhero image, it did not make her less than female heroes. So basically, her ethnicity does not define who she is. That is what, like the co-creator was talking about in the video. Because I'm seen as this, people are labeling me as, like she said, which I didn't show, but she said they label me as a terrorist, as, like this and that. But really, because of who she is, it does not define who she really is. And so, in fact, in the comic, Kamala's moral judgment and actions amplified her character and showed the reader that she fits into the mold of a superhero. So I added in this slide, or this picture over here from page 48. This is when Kamala, after she got the powers of Captain Marvel, and even at this point, she didn't realize that she was being a good superhero. She was being a superhero based on her own moral, right and wrong. Going back to the whole moral idea. So she says in this comic, there's this ayah from the Quran that my dad always quotes when he sees something bad on TV. A fire or a flood or a bombing. Whoever kills one person is as if he's killed all of mankind. And whoever saves one person is as if he has saved all of mankind. When I was a little kid, that always made me feel better. So so right here, before she even realizes, it takes her to the end of the novel to realize, but right here, around page 48, right in the kind of beginning, it goes to show her own moral idea of right and wrong makes her feel good. She morally does the right thing. she feels better thinking about, this is what I believe in, this is what I'm going to do, and that makes her feel good, not fitting into these ideals that these other people have about the American, like superhero beauty and this and that. She feels better, believing in herself, she believes in herself, her own moral idea, and she realizes that I am good the way I am, and I don't have to be anybody else to be a good superhero. So this connects to Color's definition because he want this graphic novel makes you think about this, makes the reader think about this. Like, just because Kamala is not white, not blonde, she's, oh, she can't be the superhero, she can't be this superhero. No, it's her moral judgment that shows that yes, she can be a superhero because she knows the right thing, and her identity, her ethnicity and her identity do not, like, her ethnicity does not define her identity. It's her. This is me. Doesn't matter what my skin type is. Doesn't matter what I believe in, what I do. This is me, this is me. I'm perfect the way I am. And that's kind of what this whole, at least volume 1, talks about, is her accepting this ideal that, hey, I'm good the way I am. And it shows readers that you do not have to be, you do not have to be perfect. You don't have to look like this in order to be a hero. The way you are, what you identify in, that's enough. Okay, so to our last slide. Back to the main question. So, are graphic novels considered literature? So, from what we analyzed from Nimona and Miss Marvel, and comparing their themes to the theory of color's definition of literature, it can be concluded that based on that one theory of color's definition of literature, that graphic novels are literature. It is. It all depends on the story, and basically it basically depends on the moral of the story. What is the story showing the reader? Like in Nimona talked about morality. It showed the reader that not everything's black and white. There's more to it. Miss Marvel showed that your identity, defines who you are. Just because you are one ethnicity or look like something doesn't mean you are labeled as this. You don't have to follow that. You are who you are. So these two graphic novels, even though they are comic book style or look like little kid literature, they have these big themes that you would see in young adult literature. You would see this if this was a plain text story, this is something that you would see in that. So yes, graphic novels are literature depending on what the theme and moral of the story is. Obviously, there are some stories, some comic books, or some stories that maybe don't coincide with this, but this was only what I focused on in this presentation, was just one theory of Coller's definition of literature. There are plenty of other theories he has on literature that these other graphic novels, if they don't fit into this ideal, might fit into that one. So yes, what I can conclude from researching, doing all this, is that graphic novels are literature. And that is the end of the presentation. Thank you so much, Professor, for bearing with me with that. I know I got awkward at times, and my house phone went off twice. I hope everything went good. If you have any questions, please email me. I would love to hear, your feedback, or if anything sounded a little weird. Maybe I didn't explain things completely because I'm nervous doing this. Yeah, just thank you so much, and have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.